Back to the saga of the Porsche 924 Turbo engine rebuild. Where did we leave off? I was waiting on an O-ring for the throttle body. I got it. Let's look at it. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Got it from Pelican Parts. Seems to be a direct replacement for the original, which has flat sides. So I'm going to stick this back on and start tightening all that upper engine stuff down, because right now it's just sitting on there loosely. All right, so throttle body back on, and I went through and checked all the hose clamps on the elbows and made sure all that was tight. So I think all of this stuff is ready. And the next thing I want to look at is the engine harness. I think it behooves me to go ahead and get it on, because there may be some routing that is troublesome. So let's look at that. So the engine harness for the Series 2 931s, they're super rare. They didn't make a whole lot of the cars, and it's different than the Series 1 turbos. So I had a misfortunate incident when about, I don't know, 6 months after I got this car, I had an engine fire, and it cooked up the engine harness pretty good. Thank God it didn't burn my garage down, but I found this replacement engine harness from DC Automotive, and it was in pretty good shape. I think down here, this particular connector, the insulation was really brittle. I know down here it's pretty hard. I've had to doctor some places up with electrical tape. I was thinking the whole thing was super brittle, but really the larger insulation has got a lot of flexibility. You know, I was almost contemplating stripping all that off, and actually be a good opportunity to check for frayed wires. But I think all in all, this is in not that bad a condition. Now, I think what I will do, these areas where I've doctored it up with electrical tape, I'm just going to pull that off and try to get some heat shrink on there. Down here, this connector, same thing. Take a look at that. You know, that and clean it up. That boot is cracked. So the cool thing about these harnesses is when they've been on the car a long time, they kind of bend into shape in there. So when it comes time to put them back on, it's pretty easy to figure out what goes where. They are somewhat color coded in that you have a blue connector, a grayish, you got a black one here, and another black one. But I think because of links, that's pretty easy to figure out. It looks like there's two grounds. Brown is ground. And if I remember right, this goes to the back of the engine for the thermotime switch and temperature sensor. So, yeah, let me just kind of doctor this up, clean it up. I don't know that I have the right size heat shrink. What I don't want to do is pull these connectors off. That's a pain in the butt. And I'll probably make more problems than I'll help. So I'm going to kind of lay it out on top of the engine, just get familiar with everything before I start cutting off insulation. So this connector went down to the coolant sensor on the back of the head, I believe. And I already had a splice in it with those old blue butt splices. So I got cut those off, got some heat shrink on there, and I use these splices, which I love these. They popped up on my Facebook feed, and they got a little band of solder in the middle, and I tell you, they work 100% every time. So not only does it shrink down when you heat it with a shrink gun, but also that little band of solder melts. And yeah, they are the best butt splice made. So this one actually goes to the warm-up valve. So that's all nice and tidy. Everything that goes to the back of the engine is pretty toasty. So you have these two that go to the oil pressure sender. I got them doctored up. This one is the coolant sensor, and I'm checking continuity as I go on that red conductor. It looks like it's been laying, those have been laying up against something, and they're almost sheared. I'm getting continuity on the green and the white, but the red and the white, not so much. So, and that connector's fractured. So I'm probably going to have to replace that connector, which, now that I think about it, potentially could be a connector from a 944. As long as it mates up, why not? Could be a fuel injection connector. I know I got some of those laying around. Let's see what happens. Yeah, one fuel injector harness I cut off a 944. I replace those all the time. So I'm gonna pick the best one of these. I already checked fitment. It fits right on the sensor, and there you go, quick and easy. Okay, so very simple, inexpensive, and easy fix. Now, what I found was, you can still see the red and white conductor, which it changes over to a different color, but the same prong. What I found was that when I tried to get continuity from the correct prong, red and white, to red and white on the multi-connector, right? Still no continuity, even with a fresh connector, good wire. So I'm thinking, okay, there's some mumbo jumbo going on in this harness. Then I noticed on this connector with this bad boot, there's a red and white. Let's see if I can show that to you. Well, anyway, it is in there. So when I check continuity from the red and white on this connector to that one, yes. So apparently it's running through the harness to here. And then, you know, I'm not looking at a wiring diagram, which would explain everything. But I know the car's temperature gauge worked. So it's kind of a pointless exercise. This connector was toast. It was broken, so it needed to be replaced. You know, and then I just kind of doctored up the rest of these, put some nice heat shrink on them, and, you know, make sure that I check continuity on all those. It'll probably behoove me to check continuity. I don't know. There may be other mumbo jumbo things going on, you know. Everything else looks pretty darn good. The multi-connectors are no frayed wires. You know, the boots on a couple of these are toasty, but, you know, I think I'm going to run with it for now and get it fitted on the engine. Okay, so I think we've got everything on the back of the engine. Oil pressure sender, the coolant temperature sender, and can't remember what this one is for, but that's, so this sub harness goes right there, and that's probably going to all get in the way whenever I go to put the engine back in. Also, you've got two terminals, and I don't think these matter which one goes where on this thermotime. These are vacuum, passes through there. Here's your main connectors for the whole harness. This one pretty much has to go to this vacuum regulator, I think it's called. The long one that I worked on goes around to this guy. A ground, there's actually several grounds. This one, I'm confident, goes to this bracket here. Seems the most logical. Of course, underneath here is the TPS, so that makes sense. I'm not sure about this brown and white. We'll find out more about that. Chime in if you know. And then there's another ground here. So that may be related to the coil of the distributor. But I've got most everything. And, you know, it's all in the orientation that I remember. So I'm at a good stopping point, I think. I'm glad I took the time to check the harness, especially this stuff going to the back. It gets cooked up pretty good. Well, look, it's right there by the exhaust, so super hot area. So we're going to call this segment a done deal. Thanks for watching, guys.